All right, episode 150.
What?
If you do this, we should celebrate this.
Hey.
If you're going to do this, and you need to do this, this is going to double your lead conversion. So you're going to want to listen to this and share it out. We're going to get started right now. All right, episode 150. Today we are talking about you just need to do this one thing, just one. That's it. Simple. This one thing that will double your lead conversion and put more money in your pocket. This is what we're all about, is helping you make more money within your real estate sales. My name is Nick Good. This is Brian Force. That's Mount Kelderman over there. And
What was that? No,
that was perfect.
That was good.
That was very fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I was seeing if you could catch up, Jesse.
We've got Jesse
Can't.
Showalter
Yeah,
on the tables.
Seeing how fast you could do it all.
What is it on the? What's the DJ on the?
On the ones and twos?
Yeah.
On the ones. God,
Yeah,
so
ones
stupid.
and twos. And so, look, today's show, this 150th episode, is brought to you by our favorite loan officer, the only loan officer you should know, Mortgage Mike, mortgagemikeoftexas.com. You want that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval, he's got it for you. It's there waiting. He just is, he's itching, right? You know, he's ready to throw it down and get your clients approved. And like we said, I think last week, he is approved now to be able to give loans in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. I'm going to change his name to Michael Financial. I think that sounds super cool.
I like it.
Instead of Mortgage Mike.
That and look, once your client buys that house, they're going to need a home warranty, right? And you can now negotiate with sellers again. So let's get that home warranty built in when you're making that offer. And the best home warranty company out there, I had lunch with my old broker, Jay, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to give Armadillo a try.
Yeah, how's he doing?
He's doing great.
Cool.
Doing awesome. And so all you need to do is connect with the Ron over at Armadillo. So armadillo.1/Tor, T-O-R-E. And he can get you hooked up for all your home warranty needs, your client's home warranty needs, your home warranty needs, everyone's home warranty needs. He's got them. And last but not least, your favorite property manager.
Over at homeworddfw.com. That's Homeward Property Management. That's a little inside baseball because we actually own the company. But you know what? You know that. So if anything ever goes wrong, you can come straight to us. We've had a lot of awesome referrals from you guys lately, and we really, really appreciate it. Our president and head property manager, Dan, has been working her butt off to take care of everybody's clients and referrals. So send us your referrals for a fat referral fee over there at homeworddfw.com/realtors. For your referral submissions, and we'll take great care of them. Dana was out there. Literally, we had an HVAC blow the other day, man. Oh, because it's Texas summer.
Dude, she texted me. She's like, hey, do you have a portable AC unit just floating around? I'm like, no. I think I have one at the lake.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't.
We found one, though. She jumped into action.
Let me ask you, did she have was it on the Homeward side or a listing side?
No, that was the Homeward side.
That someone just took a range?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We got that handled, too.
So
Yeah.
they just moved out and was like, hey, I really like this stove. I'm just going to take it.
We're doing some more investigating, but it sounds like people can live at a certain place for a long enough time and think that they own it and everything in it. So that was a pleasant surprise, which we also got handled too, because otherwise that would have been on the seller to figure it all out. We're taking care of all the logistics and getting everything secured.
We sent Matt over there just to go pick it up.
Yeah, that's exactly
Wise choice.
Look, everyone's feeling the market pinch, right? They're feeling that slowdown there. Well, we were coming up with show topics. Next week, you want to join us because we will have on a gentleman who has built his business over $72 million in closed volume last year through postcard farming and neighborhood farming.
Stout.
So you'll want to join us with that. But, right now, most of these agents are coming to us and asking, what can I do? I listed a home. It's not moving. What kind of? I'm offering incentives. It's not overpriced. I'm like, first off, if it's not selling, it's definitely overpriced. Unfortunately, right now that is the case. The second thing is that right now we're hearing sellers who want to buy, but their number one objection is, I don't want to move because interest rates are too high.
Yeah.
And so my agents are asking me, well, what do you say to that?
Sure.
And our show topic today is doing this one thing is really going to help increase and double your lead conversion, whether that's cold leads, whether that's your sphere, past clients or referrals. And this one thing is look, we'll give you we'll give you everything up front, and then we'll go over some scripting and how to do that. Is you need to dig deeper for motivation. You need to find out their true pain points, their true why. If someone is wanting to sell or buy right now, and they're like, Matt, man, that'd be great, but interest rates are too high.
Right.
So what you're telling me is that you want to do something, but is the number one thing stopping you truly rates?
Right.
And this is where we need to dig for deeper motivation, that deeper why, that deeper pain.
I think to 100%, right? To put it really broadly, I said this the other day on our Power Up. Like, we're not really in the real estate sales business. We're in the problem-solving business. We don't actually own the houses we're selling, so we're not in the sales business, right? It's just that professional real estate problem solver is too long, so we say professional real estate salesperson, right? I think we've become almost victimized by a shifting market is we don't empower ourselves enough to really find true motivation so that we can help solve people's problems. That's a bit of a mindset issue on the front end for most agents with their lead gen. Like, spoiler alert, if your lead follow-up is some rendition of, hey, just checking back in, seeing if you're ready to do anything, like, that's not really effective follow-up because you're staying right there at the surface. What you're doing is you're putting your bait, if you were fishing, right at the surface, and you're waiting for the fish to come up and hopefully take it, right? You've got to go way deeper and find motivation. And I know that sounds like kind of salesy, what I'm saying. If you have it in your mind that you're just here to solve people's problems, well, if you're nurturing leads, understand that part of it is getting them to know, like, and trust you so that they will help you understand their real motivation and the problem that they're trying to solve. If it goes like interest rates are a perfect example, right? We're in a market right now where two forces were at play for a couple of years, right? Like, sales prices went way up and then interest rates went up. And you can have one or the other, but if you have both, monthly payments go up. Okay, so understanding that motivation, now we can work around it to solve that problem, right? So how do you solve the problem of high interest rates? Well, fantastic that that's the only thing that you're trying to overcome, because we can work around that. Did you know we have triple the inventory right now that we had this time last year? So you actually have 3 times the amount of homes to choose from. And what that means is that when you're making an offer, sellers are more likely to concede on sales price, but they could also concede on seller concessions, which could help you buy down that interest rate. What if I told you that you could buy a $450,000 house and have the same monthly payment as if it was only worth as if you only offered $375 or $400? That's what we could do with a rate buy down through a seller concession. Now I'm helping you understand how I can help you find a solution to your problem. I have to get deeper with the right questions to even understand what your problem is, right? I think I said this even last week on the show. I had a conversation with a lady who wanted $850 for a home. It expired. She didn't want to relist because the market was falling apart or whatever. And I said, well, when did you buy the home and how much did you pay for it? She bought it 6 years ago for like $500,000 or something like that. I was like, if I told you 6 years ago that your home would be worth $800,000 in 2022, would you be happy with the return you had made on your investment? And of course, the answer was yes. I said, okay, well, your home is at least worth $800,000 now. It might not be worth $850, but if you can help people get past that initial, like, this is what the news and my friends and everybody else is telling me to think, and get you, to reveal their real motivation, now you have an opportunity to help solve whatever their problem is. And that's through diving deeper and asking the right questions. I think as an industry, we don't ask the right questions, and we don't ask enough questions.
It's not even that we don't ask the right questions sometimes, is that we don't even have the right answers, right? So many real estate agents, I think, sometimes fall into the exact same trap of what our clients do. They're just not digging deeper in their own data. I've said this on the show before. If some of this stuff wasn't brought through the fact that, like, I sit with you guys all the time, or we have team meetings where this data is brought to me, I may not know where to go and find things like interest rates historically really aren't that bad, right? Or the idea of a rate buy down, right? I guarantee you 90% of agents who probably hear that are like, I don't even know why somebody would do that, or how do I leverage that into for a buyer in this market when sellers still have all this leverage, right? There's so much of it that I think just comes from us educating ourselves around what those things mean. So then we can go to the consumer and talk to them. I had a conversation with a guy last week sometime about the rate buy down thing, right? Just explaining to him is, hey man, that same 25 grand that he was willing to put down on this house probably could be used better to buy his rate down long term, because he wasn't planning on moving for a long time. Like, this is one of those clients who's like, I'm going to be here for 10 years. Cool, well then let's not worry about the price. Appreciation is going to catch up. If you have this extra 25 grand to play with, let's get your interest rate down, because that's the money you're not going to get back, right? That's the shit you're just pissing away to the bank every month.
Think of it this way, right? And I wanted to make sure to give this the right quote. Dang, Brian's hair looks luscious today.
Hey, I'm glad that Parada's name actually showed up, so I know who to thank.
Parada.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, appreciate it on the 150th anniversary.
Parada,
Yeah,
remember when you recorded the video for this a long time ago when we were on episode like 9?
Yeah.
Torque
Should
out
have
of
seen my hair back then. It
Yeah.
was terrible.
There's less of it.
So Zig Ziglar says this, right? People buy on emotion and justify with logic.
Yes.
And you know, too often when we're throwing stats around, and we all do this. We're all big enemies of this, which is we go and look at data and we're like, oh, this data. If you look at this data, for sure, you're definitely going to want to move or buy or sell or whatever it is. And the problem is that there's two things. I'm so logical that I don't always get deep enough emotionally with people, and I have to remind myself is people buy on emotion and justify with logic. Sure. And so what we've been educating on is, and Nate brought this to me, where he's like, I'm talking to several people right now that they said, look, we would love to sell, but we're not buying because of interest rates. And these are also the same people that were saying in 2020 and 2021, I would love to sell, but where would I go?
I don't want to offer $100,000 over asking price.
Yes. And so, you know, as you're going through this, you know, I want to go deep on the emotional part and side skirt the logic and then use that at the end of it, right? And so number one, I say, all right, Matt, I understand that. Look, I get it. Interest rates are so much higher than they were 2 to 3 years ago. So if interest rates weren't an issue right now, so let's just toss that out, right? Let's imagine, you know, you're in a 3-2 right now. You know, why would you buy a new home? What are you looking for?
More space.
More space. What would you do with more space?
Think about having another kid, just need an extra room. There's not enough room in the house anymore.
Love it. And so you know, another kid, maybe play space, maybe a bigger backyard. If you have another kid, you definitely probably want them playing in the backyard, or at least have a place to go.
For sure.
Right. And so so if we were to find something that made sense for you, right? So that if that other kid were to come along, or you needed that second office, or you needed that more room for your kids to play right now, and it was a great looking house, right? And it made sense financially, within your budget, your payment plan. By the way, again, let's throw interest rates out the window. If you were to buy this house that had the extra bedroom and more space, where would you like to keep your payment range at?
$3,000 a month.
$3,000 a month. So sounds like a little bit more than what you're paying now.
Yeah.
Okay, so not bad. Okay, great. So if we were to find something like that and it stayed within that $3,000 payment range, would it matter what that interest rate is at the moment?
Probably not.
No. So this is where we get into a little bit, and that's not even deep enough on the emotion. Like, how would that make you feel if you had more space?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, where your kids your newborn's waking up and they have their own nursery.
You can almost use that same thought process sometimes that we use when talking to agents about value of teams, right? Like, what's the current positive thing about your house? What's the current negative thing, right? What's the future? Like, what does your future look like if you stay in this small house with another kid? What would it look like if we moved up to that other house? And just staying in those 4 quadrants and kind of walking them through that emotional space of, well, why do you like your house? What do you really like about it right now? Finding out what you need to find for them in their next house, right?
Yep.
They're essentially telling you what their criteria is most important to them. You know, what do you not like about your house right now, right? Like, it doesn't have this, this, and this. All right, well, if you guys were staying in that house and have another baby, how's that going to look? Well, shit, we're going to be out of room, man. We're going to have to, the kid's going to have to, the crib's going to be in our bedroom. We did that when we had a 1-bedroom apartment. That was the worst. I don't want to go through that again, right? well, what would it look like if we could keep you in the same price range and move you up to whatever house you want, right? And instead of where I always, because I'm the exact opposite of you, I am stay in the emotion and never in the logic. So they start giving me like the first emotional thing, and I'm just going way too far down that rabbit hole with them. And I think if you look at those quadrants, it allows a conversation to kind of stay in a space that you can manage it, and it allows you to walk through all these things, and it does the thing I like the most. You're essentially having them tell you exactly what they want and need, and then you repeat it to them, and you look like a freaking genius.
100%. We do the same thing. Man, this is, you know what this feels like? Feels like every year before 2019. This is how we did it, right? Like, you ask the right questions, find the motivation, solve problems. It was exactly how we did it, right? One of the things that I want to touch on, because I think that where we're at right now, a lot of us out there, we're not even getting to the point in the conversation where we can even really go that deep. Like, we haven't even put the boat in the water yet, right? And what I mean by that is, like, I own this at listing presentations, right? We come to the listing presentation with our fat marketing packet, right? And I say, look, this thing is 28 pages long, and I don't want to waste your time. I'm going to bore you to death if I go through every one of these. What's the most important thing in the realtor that you hire? And I'm going to skip to that page, and then I'll leave this with you to read over at night, and you can ask me any questions on the other side, right? And then I'll get exactly to the conversation that I want to have. The first conversation that we're having with prospects, I'm assuming. Now, we're already talking in our premise of diving deeper. We're talking to people that have reservations about either buying or selling right now for whatever reason, right? The number one question out of your mouth, right, I think, which will allow you to get to where Nick is talking about, is what's your number one concern about if you're on the buy side, then buy. If you're on the sell side, then sell. What's your number one concern about buying a home in this market? What's it going to be right now? Interest rates. It's not going to be that sales prices are too low, right? So it's going to be interest rates, you know what? And then your ability to just own that and go, I'm so glad you said that. If that's your only concern, I'd love to dive a little bit deeper with you. I'm going to come back to that. Tell me about the home that you're going to buy, right? Eventually you're going to buy a home. When you buy that next home, what does it look like, right? And now you get into, is it more space? Is it your kids playing in the backyard? Is it all that type of stuff? When I get you emotionally involved now because I've owned that and I've asked you up front, just tell me what your objections are. What's the number one reason that you're nervous about buying a home right now? I can go back now and say, hey, if we can get you that bigger home with the game room for your kids in the big backyard, and I told you that we could do it at a lower interest rate, is that something that you'd be interested in, right? Yeah. Of course it is. So now I can talk about how inventory has gone up. I can talk about a seller rate buy down. I can talk about how we can get your monthly payment to where you need it to be. And because I just asked up front, Kelderman has a great story about this that he's told on the podcast many times about not even asking the right question at a listing appointment, not realizing staging was the only thing the sellers cared about, right?
Yeah, like that $800,000 listing. And this was years ago too, so an $800,000 listing was like, wow.
Yeah, 100%. So like if you're even trying to figure out like, hey, how do I even get to the point where Nick is talking about where I can really dive into what is important to you and find that emotional tie? Why don't you start by just owning it? And because I'm assuming that if we're lead generating really hard right now, we're running into a lot of conversations where on the sell side, they go, it's not a good time to sell because, prices and it's not, the market's turning or whatever. Let me ask you this. Is your number one reason that you don't want to sell your home right now is because you think that you're going to have to take a lower sales price than what your asking price would be? Fantastic, right? Now I can talk about your equity position and things like that. Is the number one reason that you don't want to buy a house right now is because interest rates are too high? Fantastic. I'm glad you said that. Let's talk about the home that you do want to buy when you do buy. And now I can get into everything that Nick is saying, and I can bring it back to, here's how we solve the problem that you told me that you had. I think that we're struggling to even get to that part of the conversation because we're not owning the fact that, hey, look, I know you're nervous. Tell me what the number one concern is that you have right now. Just put it out there because I want to know how to handle this objection. Even say that. I just want to know how to handle your objection. Tell me what your number one reason that you don't want to buy a house right now is. And now I can have a real conversation from a place of you've already told me the objection you had. Now let's work through it together, right?
I think the thing that I like about that, and I even just learned something, that is it allows you to take the logical part, which is why they don't want to do something, right? Tie it to the emotional part and then bring it back to create a win around their actual concern. Yes. And I saw Rebecca say she's really good at the logic part. I think everybody at this table is except for me. And that's super helpful because I don't lead with that question, I immediately go into the, hey, what do you want, right? Like, I want to be your freaking friend,
Yeah.
right? And like tell you everything. Like, interest rates are high. Oh, I know they're kind of high, man. You know what I mean? It's like, so I do so many things like that because I don't have any kind of like structured background when it comes to sales or even really kind of the art of why people buy and sell things, right? So I love the fact that you're using the logic first and then bringing it back to the emotional part.
I think that, we as we continue to move into a shifting market, I think that there's something that got lost along the way in our profession that people that haven't really been scripted in a while, it almost feels like icky or something. And like, just understand that like you being really well versed and well scripted like Nick is, like that all that's doing is empowering you to have conversations that the people on the other end of that conversation may not know existed. Meaning like our prospects out there that are thinking about buying a home, they're not doing research on rate buy downs right now, right? So your ability to be scripted, what you're doing is you're disarming the wall that they're immediately putting up, and you're allowing that to come down and then really give them guidance. And that does take scripts, that does take tact, and that does take practice. So don't feel like you're being salesy. You're using good strategies to have really quality conversations.
Let me ask you this. So this is something I was talking to Nicole Espinoza. She has a group that flew in yesterday. And one of the ladies asked me a question about, she's like, help me. I was like, look, this is a mastermind. This isn't, who cares about my story? I said, how can I help you? And one of the ladies like, well, help me kick my butt into gear with investing. She's a real estate agent. And I said, well, have you been advising your buyers to buy or hold, or to not buy in this market? She's like, well, to buy. I was like, okay, so why are you not buying? Right. And Coach Burt today on one of our calls, and I briefly got it. I'm going to listen to the rest, and I'll bring some notes next week on it too and use it. But two things he talked about is conflict happens when two people don't believe the same things, right? So think of it this way.
Yeah.
How many people in this marketplace right now, real estate agents, actually truly believe that interest rates are too high and it's not a good time to buy?
I mean, I don't know maybe the answer that you're looking for, but I've said it several times in the podcast, the worst spreaders of misinformation about the real estate market are real estate agents. So I bet a lot of them think it's a bad time to buy.
How many times I've seen people commenting on the Facebook ads that I've been running during 2020 and 2021 that do not buy a house. They're going to come crashing down. And this was at the beginning of 2020, like when the pandemic started, and we started to feel that launch happening.
The pandemic. No one's going to live anywhere ever again.
And so one of the things that he talks about is lead with what we believe, not with what we do. Right? Ooh. So when he talks about that, and that really resonated because, we're trying to come with our beliefs. And it's true, like most people are align, friendship, business, relationship, just any type of camaraderie usually aligns with similar like-minded beliefs.
Yeah.
And so if you're out here not believing that this is a great time to buy a house, do you think that you're probably projecting that when you're having these conversations with potential buyers and sellers?
Oh, I guarantee you are. And that might actually be worth spending just a moment on here. Like I said, I think that real estate agents are the worst purveyors of misinformation when it comes to real estate. The reason that I think that, I don't think it's malicious. I believe it's two things. I think that people have a perverse attraction to doom and gloom, so we're like always predicting the worst. I also think that people always think it's like their job to have an opinion in what's going on all the time. And so I want to dispel one myth here. Do you know it's always a good time to buy or sell a home? And what I mean by that, I can't imagine that either of you have read the book Security Analysis by Benjamin Graham.
Oh, yes, I have. Yeah, three times.
I listened to it on Audible.
So Security Analysis is a book by Benjamin Graham. It's Warren Buffett's Bible. Okay, so it's one of the original investing books, right? It has it's very old, so it's not as relevant anymore, but it has a great kind of imagery in that book. There's an anecdote about the market. It's talking about the stock market, but it's true in the housing market as well. It's just talking about this guy named Mr. Market. And every day, this guy, Mr. Market, is going to wake up and he's going to try to sell you things. And he's going to try to tell you what you already own and what it's valued at, right? And he is a schizophrenic. He's incredibly moody, and you have no idea why he acts the way that he does. He's a crazy person, and he's not to be listened to. The only times that you listen to Mr. Market is on the day that you're trying to buy something and whether or not he's quoting you a price that makes sense for you, and the day on which you're looking to sell something and whether he's quoting you a value that makes sense for you. Everything that happens every day in between with Mr. Market is irrelevant because he's a crazy person, right? And that's true in every market. The housing market, let me ask you this. Why did we have a run-up in the housing market the last 2 years? Because interest rates were lowered, so everybody thought it was a good idea to just move? No, we had a run-up in prices because what happened was a lot of people started listening to this guy named Mr. Market, and then the more people that listened to him, the more people that listened to him. And now he's turned and become a schizophrenic again, and now he's telling everybody that their homes are that interest rates are higher, so it's not a good time to buy, and they're listening to him again. You're going to live in your home for a long time. It is always a good time to buy or sell a home at the right value, at the right price, and the chapter of life that it makes sense for you. Guess what would happen to home prices if interest rates went to 18%? They would probably come down. And you know what? The people that didn't sell, they would still live there, and they would go through that cycle, that schizophrenic cycle of Mr. Market, and they would just sell at a time that made more sense for them. So any opinion that you have about whether or not it's the right time to buy is wrong inherently because you're listening to this crazy schizophrenic man named Mr. Market. The right time to buy or sell a home is when it makes sense for you. And if you come with that belief and you ask the right questions, now you can help people solve their problems. If you fundamentally believe that interest rates are too high and it's not a good time to buy, you're not going to have good conversations. Interest rates are fine, and it's a great time to buy. You know what? It's also a good time to sell, especially if you've owned for a while. You've got a lot of equity. If you come from a place of neutrality, and I'm just trying to ask better questions and solve your problems, you're going to be much better off than having hard opinions about the market.
Remember what I said, money changes hands?
Yes.
When problems are solved.
When problems are solved.
So find the problem, and then come with the solution. And so that's it. I mean, there are times, and Rebecca mentioned it earlier, that the people like myself that really had to learn. Rebecca, I'm in the same boat as you, where she said she struggles going deeper with the emotional side since she's such a logical person. Yeah. And look, it's twofold. I know right now we have a client that is making a decision, and it's all emotional. It's all emotional based and not with zero logic in there. Yeah. And we had to come from really just hammering on logic and saying, let's run the numbers this way. So like, let's say hypothetically you were selling a house and it was your second home. You already live in another house, and this home that is now vacant was a property that you had resided in. It was your primary residence out of the last 5 years. And so you get an offer, and you're happy with that, but then all of a sudden the offer terminates and changes by let's say it's $60,000 to $80,000. And so now you see that as you're losing that $60,000 to $80,000. Right. And so now you're getting emotional about it, and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to lease it. I'm like, okay, I understand that, but let me ask you, Brian, with you leasing it, how much do you think you're going to cash flow? I'm like, I don't really know. I've got a low rate, and I've lived in it for a while, so my payment's still relatively low. I think I'm going to cash flow $1,000 a month. I'm like, cool, Brian, that sounds like a lot. That's good. That's $12,000 a year net, assuming 100% vacancy, and sure. And you don't have to do any rehab, or you don't have to do any make readies or anything, right? Yeah. Or repairs. And so I said, how much were you anticipating? You think you saw the net sheet? How much were you going to roughly walk away with when selling? Well, let's call it $300,000. Yeah. So I said, okay, great. So let's look at it this way, right? Right now, you sell a property and you're making $300,000. More than likely, that's not a true net. You've got to go run your expenses on it. But if you were single, then you check with your CPA on this. But it's tax free up to $250,000 in net profit. Check with your CPA on that just to verify, because I am not one. But that's what the tax IRS says. So you've got tax free money coming in versus a property that you're going to turn into a rental property, that would be your only one, Brian. You don't have any others right now. And it's a really expensive, high-priced rental property. And so let's just say that $300,000 versus your $12,000 net that you're making on cash flow a year. That's going to take you 25 years to equal $300,000.
It's going to be taxed as ordinary income.
Well, yeah, that too. So assuming that it's always 100% vacant and you have no make ready, no repairs, then when you decide to sell this property, all that principal pay down, which is great, and everything else, you will now have to pay taxes on capital gains taxes. Versus this $300,000 that more than likely you're not, because I'm sure that you have that $50,000 gap there between $250 to $300. I bet you've got some expenditures in there that your CPA can find. And so I say number wise, to me, it's 25 years versus
it's a good
you're
point,
taking
dude.
25 years of cash flow up front.
It's a good point, man.
So
and you know what? I think you could even take it a step further, right? Let's just say that you took that $300,000, you even paid taxes on it on the $50,000. So let's just say you ended up with $250,000 net. Well, let's just say you could invest that passively for 6 to 8% a year return. What is your cash flow on that?
Exactly.
So about $18,000 to $20,000 a year. You're getting the same returns without even have to manage the asset.
Or you truly want to become a landlord. Let's take your $300,000. Let me show you how I can get you into 3, 4, 5 properties, because we're generating a lot of
100%.
instant offers right now. So we can match you up with that. Now you're going to be actually having a larger net worth spread opportunity to gain a larger net worth. You're going to be having the same cash flow more than likely, because you're going to use debt service on it. But we can show you how to actually get better, a better play on your taxes this way. So let's look at it.
Yeah.
And I say, and my advice would be, this is where I'm coming to you as a real estate advisor, that consultant.
You see yourself, and I know you're about to jump in. I just want to put this out there before I know Kelderman has thoughts on this too. I know that was a little bit intricate because Nick is a genius and he's able to have those conversations. I do. If that felt like it was a little bit like, oh, I just don't know that I could have that conversation. I am a bartender and he's a pizza delivery boy. I only say that to say like he works for Marcos. No, it's just, guys, I can't say this enough times. Repetitions. The only way you'll get good at asking the right questions and then solving those problems with that type of intellect and articulation is just to do it, man. And I know that I say this a lot about mindset and getting up every day, but it's real. Like, if you want to be able to have those types of conversations, talk to a lot of people. And you're going to fail a lot, but you got to talk to a lot.
I was going to kind of take it there a little bit too. Like, it sounds like a really difficult conversation. And when you can master conversations like that, here's what you're really doing for not just your business, but for the people that you're now ultimately going to have in your life. You've taken somebody who didn't really understand kind of what they were going to do, who was going to be the renter, or who's going to be a landlord of one property, which is a massive pain in the ass.
It's not enough.
For a very low return at the end of the day. And now showing them a way to building not just wealth for themselves, but generational wealth. What do you think the trickle-down effect that's going to be, not just for their life, but for your life? Yep. Do you think that person that you just helped made a better financial decision isn't going to tell everybody else that they know that has money? Do you not think that person who is now going to be in different circles, because instead of being a landlord of one property, they now have 5 properties that are being managed by Homeward Property Management? There you go. And they're now going to up their game and who they hang out with, that those people, they're going to start running in circles with people that maybe have more properties, that's going to provide you with more opportunity to help other people, that in turn is going to turn your business into the type of business that you want it to be, where maybe now you're not out there doing the lead generation that you hate. You're working with people that know, like, and trust you because you're a proven resource in a specific area. This isn't about like learning this stuff one time and then just forgetting it forever. Yeah. This is about how it has a trickle-down effect, not just for their family's wealth building, but also what you can end up doing for your business and your own personal wealth and growth as well.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, to make a point about like having more conversations and that type of thing and getting those repetitions in and getting really good at them. We work in a privileged industry in which, like, it's one of the things that universally people love to talk about in the good times and the bad. You know what I mean? Like, have you ever asked a human person, like, hey, what do you think about the real estate market? And they're just like, neutral. Like, no, everybody either loves to say it's fucking crazy or it's all falling apart. It's never in between.
Yep.
Think about the way this shift came on. It happened on like a Thursday. Like, it was just that fast, right? So we have this thing, this blessing where, like, when the market is really hot and running up, we can have conversations around, because that same conversation could have been the exact opposite with Nick saying, like, yes, you might have to offer a little bit over and come out of pocket cash. And guess what? The effects of locking in a sub-3 interest rate, here's going to be the ripple effect of that long term. You can have that same conversation. And you know what? It's not a disingenuous conversation, because owning assets is always a good idea, right? At least owning the right assets. Appreciating assets is always the right idea, or a good idea. It's the same thing now. It's not that people have stopped talking about real estate. They're just having a different conversation. They're coming from a place of doubt and fear or whatever, and it's our opportunity to go and bring that type of education, that strategy, and that advisement behind them. And that takes skill and repetition. I would also take that any day over the conversation that is, hey, do you want to buy a house? There's only one available. You're going to have to pay everything you've ever owned for it. Like every dollar of cash you have, even that might not be enough. And quite frankly, don't even try to negotiate terms, and don't ever look the sellers in the eye, because they're not even going to look back, right? Like, that's a really hard conversation now too. So you pick your poison. At least now we get to advise people.
And think about that. Like, buyers were going crazy then.
Yes. And we didn't get to be advisors. We were like, dude, just close your eyes and write the check.
Yeah. And so now we have this, and they're like, no, interest rates are too high. So you're okay with the other market where you had to go.
You're okay with coming out with real cash.
Yeah. It again, this is the emotional side trying to the people buy out with emotion, and they're letting they're letting the logic like control the emotion, but it's not a good logic reasoning, right? Yeah. Because it's not coming from true understanding.
I think this is going to sound a little morbid, but I think there are things we need to consider when we think about the way people think about like markets, like real estate and stuff. When you're saying like it's coming from not from a place of logic, or it's coming from a place of emotion, it's coming from a place of, this is what the news tells me, and this is what my friends tell me. And the friends and the news are part of a 330 million people demographic that is the United States of America, in which, like, I don't want to butcher this, Jesse, and I know you can't look it up fast enough, but like the amount of people that couldn't come up with $400 in an emergency and stuff like that, like, we know the more, like, the really kind of dark financial statistics about most people and like how we maintain and build wealth in this country. And so when we talk about, people coming from a place of emotion, those emotions are usually coming, 37%. This is from January 12th, 2022. Last year, only 37% of Americans reported having enough savings to cover an expense of $500 or more. That is really, really crappy. Sad, actually. And I don't mean that in an offensive way. I'm just saying, like, I think we need to be realistic about how opinions are formed, meaning, like, if I'm just listening to the people around me, for the most part, people don't quite know what they're talking about. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm saying that see yourself as someone that people can depend on to give them real advice, to advise them properly.
I've said it before. Even if we go off real estate industry standards and say that the average real estate agent does about 7 to 10 transactions a year, understand that in 1 year, you do about twice as many real estate transactions as most people do in their whole life.
Yes.
Right? Like, and that doesn't make you an expert on everything, but it certainly should take away the fear of you having a conversation with somebody around their understanding of something that you do for a career, right? So even if you're just kind of doing average numbers of this, you're still experiencing it way more than most other people would be. Brian said something earlier, like when he said appreciating assets. You ever have those moments where you have like 5 thoughts in the span of a millisecond and your brain just formulates this whole thing? As I watched Brian fumble through that, all of a sudden I just had an image of a guy like listening to our show with like a fleet of 89 Honda Civics, and he was just like, "Oh shit!"
It's like, these aren't. Oh no,
I made the wrong move.
He's just got like 1,000 pairs of Jordans, and you're like, "Oh no, I bought the wrong year." That is hysterical.
I mean, say that. Hold on, 1989. I mean, they're classics technically.
Yeah,
Are they now?
Yeah, I mean,
25. The
man.
term for a classic is 25 years or older.
I was about to ask. Oh my gosh, is that really true?
Yeah. So I mean, that '89 Honda Civic's a classic.
we'll take it back
Dude,
to what Brian said.
The
Michael,
97 Toyota Prius is a classic now.
well, I just know that because I just got back from my 25th high school reunion. So everything that happened that year is classic
my
now. So
God.
97 and before.
You should have shown up in the same car that you drove to
That would
school
be
every
I
day.
had an '89 Ford Festiva, and I couldn't fit in that bitch right now if I had to.
What? Okay, so it's a Actually, can you do this? What are like the cars that appreciate that are classics that aren't depreciating assets? Like just do cars that appreciate.
It's got to be like
Porsche.
a lot. It's got to
Dave
be.
Heil has a Porsche.
It's got to
He
be like
does.
a lot
He
of
has a
60s.
couple.
It's
But
got to be a
it's-
lot
but
of
it's not
60s
every
and 70s
Porsche.
muscle cars. It's got to be a lot of those Americana muscle cars.
Okay.
Or,
It's probably some of those. I've always wanted to understand why though. So like, okay, I
those
get
are cars
this.
from today though. That's like
But I
old
get,
cars.
but I get some of these, like the Acura NSX. Those are sick, and they don't make them anymore. And so I
they
can
brought
see
them
that
back.
for 1 year.
Okay.
I love the fact that it's just a 2002 BMW M3.
Okay, so like, why does a 1999 BMW E39 appreciate? I don't. It's an M5. Okay, why is that? Why does this appreciate? The car sales. I was looking more for like what Nick was talking about, those old classic Porsches and stuff. You're telling me a 1995 Mazda RX-7? Those are tight.
Well, isn't that the bit with Ferraris? Like you can't actually become a new Ferrari owner. You have to be a Ferrari owner to purchase a Ferrari.
Is that real?
So
I don't even know that's
okay,
true.
so I don't know if this is true or not.
Sounds
so if
awesome.
anybody can fact check me, but I've heard. Actually, I think I might have heard Ryan Pineda say this on an Instagram that like
Definitely fact check it, Jesse.
yeah, no doubt. But then, like he went in the Ferrari dealership and like for some reason he either owned one or whatever, and he was going to buy a Ferrari, and the guy said, "Why don't you actually buy another one?" Because I have a guy who currently doesn't own a Ferrari but wants to become a Ferrari owner. You pay $150 for this right now. I can flip it to him for $180 tomorrow.
Really?
Because he wanted to become a Ferrari owner, so he's willing to pay the premium to get his name on the title, so then he could become a Ferrari owner in the future and buy more Ferraris.
I mean, this is saying that Ferrari is one of the ones that it appreciates for sure. So, like you're saying, 50s America's classics, muscle cars,
Yeah.
class by itself. Ferrari 10,000. Ferrari only sells 10,000 cars a year. That seems about right. I guess that's true.
yeah.
Let me do this really fast before we move on to the question. Do percentage of Porsches that are still on the road? Do you want to know why Porsches appreciate? Percentages of Porsches
Because
that
they
are still
break
on the road.
down and there's only 1% left.
Well, if that was the case,
There it
Range
is.
Rovers would be worth $1 million.
Bro, it's 70% of Porsches ever made are still on the road.
That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know how high that is?
Yeah.
For a brand that started in 1964?
But it's
70 years ago, 68 years ago?
But it's actually, that's what year was that? 2020. So it's dropped.
58 years
Actually, it dropped by 20% because the other article said 90%.
It had a question mark in it. I don't know if that was a
And
myth.
then
I don't know.
70
I don't know if
yeah.
that was for real or not.
Yeah.
70% is not bad. I can get you 70%.
Yeah.
70% of Fords are not on the road
Which
right
one?
now.
Oh.
These are, we
These
can't.
are-
No.
These are really.
What you guys can't see in the background is Jesse's always, as we're wrapping the show up, he's Googling hypothetical questions for us to ask. And we were kind of getting bored with the website. So Jesse went really deep in some hypotheticals.
He typed
today.
offensive hypothetical questions.
He
which
really
I
did.
think
Trying to change it up a little bit.
It automatically
It's always the
ta-
same ones.
It is, but it automatically takes you to the far right of the spectrum
And
with
now
the
he
absolutely
offensiveness.
did.
And there's no like safe for work, but still offensive.
Look down at the related searches, the funny hypotheticals from Reddit. That might be a little bit. If you're going to Reddit for offensive stuff, it's going to be
pretty
here.
offensive.
Ooh, do deep type of hypothetical questions.
So as we're going deep on hypotheticals, make sure to go support our sponsors. So go real deep with them. MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. Get that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. Armadillo, I was going to say Amarillo. Armadillo Home Warranty, right? He doesn't only sell them in Amarillo.
So
I haven't been
off the
drinking
rails
it now.
now.
So armadillo.1/TOR, TORE. And last but not least, Homeward DFW. That's our property management company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
I have one.
Okay.
I think
I was gonna say because I don't like any of these. They're all trash.
if it didn't cost any money and you could go today, would you go to space for like a while? Like if you went for like a day and then came back, would you go?
For a day, definitely.
For sure.
Like just to go up, like one, like space is relatively like kind of like a silly metric
First
too,
off,
because
you have a look on your face right now, like you would.
Like
if
you
it didn't
wouldn't
cost
do
you
it?
any money, you wouldn't do it.
No, I'm
No.
just so
I
scared.
wouldn't go on the ride to
scared?
Mars because I think
Yeah.
that's too long.
Why?
But I'd go to the moon.
It's not that I don't think space would be cool. It's just a couple things. One, I think it's a risk reward thing for me because I'm pretty sure after I got out there, it would look exactly like I thought it would look. And at that point, I'm just dying to get back. I figured it out. I saw it. And the mechanism to get back from space, even when you get back safely, it doesn't look comfortable. You're on fire the entire time coming back in. Like, it doesn't look like a fun, non-stressful thing. Like, if I'm going to Puerto Rico and coming back, I can fly first class, pop an Ambien, and I'm there. You can't comfortably come back from space. It's always really scary the whole time. And, like, also, it's scary because we're not supposed to be out there. Like, we've had to create these crazy mechanisms to come back that, like, push our limits so physically just to make them happen that, like, shouldn't we be taking a hint that, like, we're not even supposed to be here? Can we just send up robots to take pictures and just can't that be enough? When is enough,
Wouldn't it be
guys?
all right? So it'd be better is you can go to space for free,
Okay.
but you have to stay at the International Space Station for 1 year
Ooh.
in order for you to have that free trip. Would you do it?
I would. Here's my thing.
Do
with
you have
that.
a job?
I don't really
Not
like.
anymore.
Every time I see the videos of those guys doing stuff up there, it looks like impossible. Like the way they have to go to the bathroom, or
Yeah.
like they always show videos of like water bubbles floating around. I'm like, you realize how annoyed I would be if I went to drink water and just started squirting everywhere. I got to figure out what's going on. Or constantly like they have the little hydration machine. He's like, look, these are our green beans, and it's like it's a Capri Sun pack that they have to spit water in.
So
I
it's
just-
only fun. It's only going to be fun it's like a party trick. It's only fun for the first day.
Yes.
And,
I
then,
bet you
and then
you-
you're already annoyed.
I bet you only go number 2 in space like every 2 weeks.
There's no, dude, I bet it's very infrequent. That's so true. You know, I also thought like the same thing, like things to just get by, like eating and going to the bathroom look hard. I've always thought when I see the International Space Station people and they do the videos and look like they're working, I've always had the thought that like, I don't think you guys are doing anything.
You're just hanging out.
Yeah. You're just floating around. Like, what are you doing?
They're doing experiments. They're trying to like
it's just space. You're
trying
not
to
even
grow
doing-
lettuce.
Yeah, you're like, okay, whatever, dude. I don't think you guys are really doing anything.
Now, I
just think-
would not go on the outside of that thing. I see them out there
Dude.
tootling around, and I'm
yeah.
like, that seems
That's
scary.
okay. That's a better question. Let's just say we are already on the International Space Station as tourists. We're guests
For free.
for free. How much would they have to offer you to do a straight up spacewalk for like a half hour? They go out there at times.
Yeah.
It would be so much money.
I'd be pretty hard. Somebody said squirrel. This is how we wrap the show up.
Is there a worse way to die than I was doing a spacewalk and something went wrong, and now I'm gently floating away from the station this fast, but I know I can't
Yeah.
get back?
Would you just undo your helmet just to let it go?
I
real
would,
fast?
bro.
Yeah.
I would take 3 minutes of college tries to try and get back or whatever, and I'm telling you, I'm not going to starve to death. I'm popping that thing and going.
Yeah.
There's
I don't
no
think you end
way.
up starving. I think something else happens for that.
I
You're
think
right for-
it's like
I was gonna say your oxygen.
I don't think you're out there for
imagine.
days. I think you got a limited situation.
that might be true. Well, it's also like they say that like if you jump off a building, you usually die of panic before you even like hit the ground. I think you just die of sheer fear really quickly.
I mean,
Yeah.
who did they ask to find out that?
That's fair. I don't think they have a lot. I'm just saying, I think if you floated away and you knew you weren't coming back, you would be so scared your
dude.
heart would just explode.
It's getting like sweat hand just thinking about that.
It's dude, I can't imagine
the
there's
Earth
a
equivalent of that is being out in the ocean.
Yeah,
like,
knowing
and
you're
then
gonna
just
drown.
watching like your ship float, or like your
Yeah.
ship sail away.
Yeah.
And you're like, what am I gonna? I watched this. It was a funny video because there were people there to save him, but this guy got like really pissed at these other boaters, and like he went to ram their boat, but he like straight up like Superman jumped off of his boat onto theirs and missed, but his boat was still running, and it took off.
Oh,
and he's
no.
just in the water. Like, if those dudes hadn't, obviously, they weren't going to sit there and watch somebody die just because he's being a dick.
Right.
But if those people hadn't been out there and he just fell off of the boat and the boat was still going and just went away,
That would've been
bro,
it.
you're like, there was nothing around that guy.
That would've been
like
it.
nothing. I'm like, how angry do you have to be to Superman jump off your boat and think you're going to go beat up other people? And then how contrite do you have to be the instant you realize that didn't work out? You're like, no, wait, please come. Get me."
right? Dude, stuff like that, seeing stuff, it just reinforces my newfound opinions around things. I've gotten really into like the risk reward of activities that I do. Like I love going to the lake with you guys, and I don't really care if I go in the lake. I don't want to go in the water. I kind of feel like
Well, there's no water there right now.
I'm just saying, like,
Gone.
It's
I
gone. The
just
water's
sit.
gone.
I've seen like. I feel like I've been in the lake so many times with some jackass on a boat who's hammered is coming towards me and doesn't see me till way late, and I'm just like, what is my benefit sitting in dirty water? Like, what am I even doing out here?
Give me the pool.
It's why I don't like to go to party lakes or go like float the river. I'm always that dude in swim shoes because I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid that like people are gonna like get hammered, throw beer bottles in there, there's gonna be glass under the water I can't
Yes.
see. I've all
You
these
have to
weird
wear
fears
shoes. You
about.
have to wear shoes.
I guess I have to
Yeah.
keep going
Yeah.
to nice
100%.
places where I can see the bottom
I'm happy with a cigar and a fishing pole on the land, in the lake.
and a
Deal.
BB gun.
Yeah, that's my
I need
happy
to do that
place.
again.
Dynamite.
There's no fishing right now, but it's
Shoot the
what it
person's
is.
roof across the way.
There's
What?
freshwater clams that you can go grab.
There might not be. I feel like the fishing would be easier because there's no water.
It also means there's no snakes right there.
You just throw it down.
There's
The
probably
fish might not be
so
alive.
many snakes around that bend at y'all's place, dude.
Oh,
Dude, I was catching turtles like a mofo and trying to catch snakes. They were everywhere. You could just see them in the water. It was actually really scary. I don't like it at all.
oh God.
So we've officially tapped everybody out on
Go
that.
support those sponsors. Maybe we have a new one coming, and we'll let you know.
Maybe we will. Maybe we'll start something else and then make you guys think it's somebody else and then try and get you to buy stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
150 episodes. Congratulations, boys.
Yeah.
Good work, guys.
Longevity, staying power. I
All right,
love it.
breathing into this.
Play one of us from before.
What is this?
Who is
That's the thing from
breathing?
earlier.
I don't know.
All right, get us out of here.
Yeah, good grief.
Jeez.
Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one. Then go to that one. Thanks.